Hello everyone, my name's Kia and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you the process of what goes into making a fantasy map. This is not an in-depth tutorial on how to draw a fantasy map, but I will point out a few things that help me when I'm illustrating cartography. So here I skipped ahead, I forgot to record some of the process, but I've already drawn the outline. I just do that always in pencil, and I always start by doing the text first, especially the larger text, because I don't want to draw in any other aspects of the landscape and then not have room for the text, because at the end of the day it is a map and it's not exactly a landscape illustration, so you need to have room for that. So yeah, I draw this in pencil first and then I go over in ink, but for smaller place names I'll just go straight into ink if I'm confident to save time. For this piece I'm doing, it's for a client, it's a commission, and it's the first map I did in a portrait orientation, which was fun. So yeah, I also draw just a guideline to write across. It helps a lot, because otherwise the names are just all over the place. Text is probably one of my least favorite parts of doing a map. It's pretty boring. If you get it right, it's cool. I honestly considered drawing and then scanning and making my own font. That would probably save me a lot of time, and then clients could just pick what font they want, but I'm just too lazy to do that yet. So yeah, when I do the text itself, it's more like a small illustration. It's not as if you're just like writing. I have to kind of draw out each letter. It's quite an involved process, at least for me. This is my first YouTube video I've made, so I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted this channel to be. I'll probably talk about a range of things relating to making art and some of my experiences as a freelancer over the past year or so now, probably more like 10 months, but I have been doing it to a lesser degree before that. Some people hate commissions. A lot of artists I know, well, I don't know them personally, but I've heard that a lot of artists really dislike commissions because it's kind of limits their creativity. You just take someone's brief and then you have to suit what they want to draw rather than what you want to draw. And I love doing my own thing, of course. Every artist, I would say, does for the most part, but I actually do have a lot of satisfaction from bringing someone else's world to life. I really enjoy that. I play D&D and I also enjoy doing a bit of writing, so that's how I started doing maps. And I know that when I can help someone else, I guess, realize the world that they want to create, I find that pretty enjoyable. Although I will say that when I'm working my own projects for myself, that's probably the most fun. This is when I was just not even sure if I wanted to actually make a video or a channel, so I did unfortunately skip out a lot of the process. Here I'm just drawing in the coastline after I've sketched it, adjusted, and talked back and forth with the client about whether or not the outline is good. Then I'll go on with ink. I use fineliner pens because I know someone's probably going to ask in the comments. Yeah, I use 0.05, 0.03, and 0.1, sometimes 0.2, but yeah, as you can see, I've already drawn in the banner. I'll hopefully do another video where I show that in a bit more detail. So here I'm just inking in the coastline. I do a light wash. It's just an ink wash, which I dilute with some water and then go around the outside of the coast. That's something I've done for the last couple maps. I'm doing it for a map I'm currently working on. I think I really like that effect, but I might try something different. I always, pro tip, I do rule in guidelines for the horizontal coastline lines, if that makes sense. So what I'm doing right now, I've just got some ink and I'm going with a brush to make coastline wave effects sort of thing. I don't usually use a brush. I was just experimenting here, but I think I prefer using a pen. The brush just didn't look as good, I don't think. But yeah, when I do that, I always pencil in straight lines to keep my own brush lines straight, because otherwise they can kind of go a bit wonky. Here I'm penciling in the mountain ranges. I just use grey lid for this. I use a mechanical pencil, as you can tell. The mountains are probably one of the hardest things to draw on the map. They're the most complicated and they can really make or break the map. I was pretty happy with the mountains, how they turned out. The biggest problem I see people do when they draw mountains, they make them very one-dimensional. They will, for instance, just do the same thing for every mountain. You want to add variation to your mountains. You want to have some smaller ones, some bigger ones, because that's how they really look like in real life. There are a lot of great tutorials out there on how to draw different aspects of maps. You can look up WAS D20. He's a great cartographer. Taught me quite a few things from watching his videos. You can also look up Map Effects on Instagram, Dimension Door. They have some very short, pretty effective guidelines for drawing different aspects of a map if you're just looking to get into it. For me, I found what helped me most is honestly just using reference. Don't just like stare at the page and try to do something. Like, don't be afraid to use reference. You can even look at real life photographs, or if you want to be special, you can go and look at a real mountain in real life, I guess. Something like that. That could be pretty cool. Looking at photographs helps, and also looking at other artists' works. It's really up to you how much detail you want to put into that. For me, I like to make them as realistic as possible, given that I'm only drawing the mountain at a very small size. So I like to add a lot of angles and facets on the mountains. I don't just like to do a stylized shape. Here, I'm just trying to make the coastline a bit more three-dimensional. And what I do for that is I simply just go along the coast and I do a few little lines, literally just that. Now I'm just going in with a light ink wash and I'm just giving it a bit more toned. Basically make the coastline pop off the page. Just makes it seem like there's a bit more of a three-dimensional aspect to it. When doing an ink wash, I always recommend you start with a very light wash. Don't go straight away into dark, because you can always add up and create layers. I feel that a lot of people think that to get better at something, well, let's use art as an example. A lot of people think that to get better at art, you've just got to sit down and practice for like 8 hours. I mean, sure, you might get a bit better, but it's better to just do 1 hour of focused practice than 3 hours of kind of shit practice, because let's be honest, if you're kind of sitting down for 3 hours and every few minutes you're getting distracted, that can be not as good as if you're actually drawing for an hour. So that's why I knew I needed to start taking walks, doing other things, because when I came back from doing that activity, I was way more focused. Through the pandemic, I've been doing these commissions pretty much full time, and so that means I spend a lot of time at my desk. And so every day I try to take a walk. I like to go walking out by the river. I'm fortunate to have a lot of areas to walk in. Here I'm just going in and inking in the mountains. I pretty much just follow my sketch, nothing special. Yeah, so to get the three-dimensional aspect, I just do a little bit of a crosshatch kind of thing on the mountain to create the shadow. But as you'll see later, I go in with another ink wash to create a bit more of a shadow tone. I also put a bit of a shadow on the ground. It's also good to have smaller hills around the mountain ranges, kind of suggesting maybe there were once mountain ranges there, but they've eroded down through time. Because that's all mountains are, they're just tectonic plates pushing together to create the mountain range. And then as the thousands of years go by, the mountains will eventually weather down. You know, nothing is static in the world. If anyone who's watching this video draws fantasy maps, let me know down in the comments how you began your journey. As I mentioned earlier at the start of the video, I started drawing fantasy maps when I wanted to make a D&D campaign and I needed a world for my players to play in. Actually, the first map I ever did, I decided to just start on an A2 size paper. And as I sketched it out, I realized I wanted more, and then I wanted another sheet and another sheet, and eventually I just made a map literally the size of my bedroom wall. And I sketched it out. I used thick marker pens to draw in the coast, and then I actually painted in the ocean in acrylic. But past that, I just grew tired of it, and eventually I ripped it all down and burned it. That was really fun, but then I scaled down and I did a slightly larger than A2 size map. I still didn't even finish that one. I have a bit of a problem not finishing projects. But after that, I started doing commissions, and then that forced me to actually finish things, which was really good because now I have a lot more easier a time finishing project. Yeah, if you're like me and you kind of get really inspired at the start of something and you tackle something really big. I used to do this a lot more when I was younger. I don't do this as much anymore because I'm just so wise and I learn from my mistakes. It sounds obvious, but honestly, just try and do something a bit smaller. Set a small goal, build on that, and then if you want to make it bigger, just leave room to allow the project to grow. So here I am sketching in a river. Rivers are a very hotly debated topic in the world building and map making community. I'd recommend making your river seemingly random. If you look at rivers on maps, they follow the path of least resistance, downwards to the sea, often stemming from a mountain. They never split unless they are at a delta, and the only time you'll see a seemingly split river is when it's two rivers merging together as they flow down from a mountain, or from where they've started or formed from underground springs. Here I am just shading in the mountains with an ink wash. I do two main styles of trees. This is one of them. It's just drawing individual trees, and I do a little bit of shading on each tree. I used to fully block in the shaded side of the tree, but I think that was a bit too intense. So now I just do dashed lines like hatching. I think it looks better. And when you're doing forests, make them not square shaped. Just make them follow the land, make them move around hills, and to give it that natural effect, I think it's always good to have some trees that are kind of removed from the main cluster of trees. There are other types of ways to draw forests, which I would say are a bit harder. This is very easy, but it's very time consuming, of course, because I'm drawing literally every single tree. So here I'm just painting in one of the place names. I'm going in with a blue watercolor just to make it stand out a little bit from the gray and black. And there we have it. That is the end of the map process. Obviously, I didn't record every aspect of the map that I drew, unfortunately. And even in the end, I forgot to actually do video shots of the finished product, so I had to text my client and ask him to just give me a simple video, which he was very kind of doing for me. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.